Hey guys, welcome back to Beyond the Struggle,
a podcast about navigating faith and adversity,
where you can tell your story. Guys, welcome back to episode 16. We are so excited. It's 16, right?
Yeah, it's 16.
Yeah, we're so excited to have you guys on. And today we have a well-awaited guest, super popular, and we're really excited for him to be on the podcast. This is Trevor Bassitt. He is a 2024 Olympian in the 400-meter hurdles, a 5-time world medalist, multi-time NCAA D2 All-American, and he's a husband, and also he's 26 years old, so he's young. He just started life. So Trevor, tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Yeah, so I went to a Division II college, like you mentioned, Ashland University. Most people don't know where that is. It's about an hour between Cleveland and Columbus, pretty much smack dab in the middle, just outside of Amish country, and was a 21-time All-American, 10-time national champion, and we won 3 team titles there. The place is near and dear to my heart. It's where I met my wife, and yeah, so that's just a little bit.
Wow, that's incredible.
That's awesome.
I didn't know all that. That's awesome.
I didn't know it was Amish country.
It's like the stores, like there's a Burger King on campus that has parking spots, and it has like a spot for literally people to hook up like their horse and buggy to. Like we saw a horse and buggy every day.
Wait, that's
I would
not
love
what
to
I
see that.
pictured, but that.
Yeah, it's very, very much. Imagine if Gainesville was like a quarter of the size, and then
Oh, so it's
Amish
small
people.
and then
Very
okay.
small, yeah.
Did you like that?
I loved it. I mean, I came from a small town. I'm from Bluffton, Ohio, and I graduated with like 80 kids in my high school.
Okay,
Like,
that's
I think the population's like 4,000, something like that. So Gainesville's easily the biggest place I've ever lived.
Yeah.
So I'm very much like small town kind of person.
That's wild. Like Gainesville's the largest.
But I've never lived closer to a Chick-fil-A in my life.
So do you like that part of Gainesville?
I do. I like that it's close, but like how we were talking before about where I live now, it's out there a little bit, so it kind of feels like I'm in the country and it's like a small town vibe still. But then I can drive 20 minutes to Archer, and then there's a Chick-fil-A, Chipotle, movie theater,
Yeah.
Celebration, and all that.
Yeah, that is cool. Well, we like to start our podcast with an icebreaker. So today's question is, what's the most adventurous thing you've ever done?
The most adventurous thing I've ever done was probably during my honeymoon with my wife. We hiked the Stairway to Heaven, which is a mountain hike in Hawaii, but there's 2 ways to do it. There's the illegal way, which is like taking the former stairs, but it's illegal because of like safety reasons apparently, and sometimes they have police officers like at the top to catch people, and then you get like $1,000 fine.
Oh my gosh.
So we took the back way, and I watched like a speed YouTube video of it, of like someone doing, see what it was like. Very sketchy. Like there was a rope, you're climbing up like straight 90 degrees at one point, it's muddy. So we're climbing up the mountain and it's going fine. It just starts raining.
Oh,
and
no
like
way.
water going by my feet. And I'm terrible with heights. Harley was great about it. She was a trooper. She's like, no, we're doing it.
Wait, how did you not slip? Like, did you have things like gripping the...
You just kind of went slow. Like at one point I was on like all fours because I was so nervous about it.
Yeah.
To the point where like the day before we went looking for hiking shoes, and I was like, please let me not find hiking shoes, so then we can't do this hike. But she got me to do it, and I'm glad we did. Like the views were incredible, but there were some moments there where I'm like grabbing the rope about to climb up, or even climbing back down. Like, all right, I have to really lock in here because the rope's muddy, my hands are muddy. If I slip, like. And my wife has a knack for saying things at bad times. So like we're walking up this mountain, and she goes, gosh, you took one false step to the side, like you're falling for like hundreds of feet. And I'm like, can you not say that right now, please?
I tried not even to look, like, oh gosh.
But no, it was awesome. I loved it. I would do it again. But that was probably the most adventurous thing I've done.
Wow. Oh, that's very adventurous too. But you survived. You made
Survived. Glad that he got a lot of good pictures. We went shark cage diving also, but that was something I really wanted to do, so I didn't consider it super adventurous, but that was really fun
Wait,
too.
how was that? Because
It
I
was
feel like
really
I'd be so
cool.
freaked out by the sharks.
They weren't like big sharks. Like I think the biggest shark we saw was like 10 or 12 feet.
Okay.
But that was something she surprised me with, which was really cool because she knows I've always wanted to do that. I still want to cage dive with great white sharks. Like I want to see a 20-foot shark just right past my face. That sounds so cool.
How do you
That
know
was
this
a good
happened?
question to ask you. We had no idea, but like that's a good question. I'm glad we asked you that.
Yeah.
That's good.
Whoa, I cannot say I've ever done anything like that before.
Yeah, I can't follow that. I mean, you're so adventurous. Gosh.
Wait,
I wouldn't say that. Outside of
that sounds very
that
adventurous.
Hawaii trip, I'm very much like not doing anything.
But like, it seems like you and Harley are like adventurous based on that. Like, you would want to go on hikes together. You would want to
Yeah.
go shark caging together. Like, that's adventurous. Like,
That's fun, yeah.
yeah. Huh. I don't think I have one. What is something adventurous? Well, my family's very adventurous. We go on like hikes. We went out on an out west trip. I've gone to the Grand Canyon. I've been cliff jumping in Jamaica. I feel like that's adventurous.
Yeah, I'm sorry. That's
hang on.
adventurous.
I think that's what they call burying the lead. Cliff jumping in Jamaica.
Yeah, I mean, I guess.
I guess that's adventurous.
As someone that's terrified of heights, you couldn't pay me enough money to cliff jump.
It's into the water.
Wait, how does that work though? You
How high is the cliff?
It depends. They have like different levels. I did like the medium level, which was, I don't know, like, I don't even know how many feet, like, I don't, is 40 feet sound about right? I don't know.
40?
Not meters, but feet. Yeah, that's about right.
I've done 20 feet.
I would say like 10 or 12 meters. Like,
Yeah,
Girl,
that's pushing
so
40
high.
feet. I couldn't do that. I've done 20 feet, but
20 feet. Okay, that would be like the baby one. That's okay.
Oh, I'm aware.
How does that compare to that diving board in the indoor?
Oh, that's the
Swimming.
height of the diving board, but I can't do the diving board.
No,
on
it's
indoor
scary. I
swimming.
feel like
It's
I'm gonna.
too scary.
If you fall wrong, you're done.
In an indoor pool, it seems so much higher up because you can see the bottom of the pool too, and then you're like, like, what if I hit the bottom?
isn't the bottom like 20 feet deep? Or like
Yes, but you
quite
can see
literally
the
will-
bottom.
Oh,
That's what like scares me. I'm like, there it is. Like,
no.
I don't know.
Oh, that's so freaky. Okay, adventures for me. So my family, we went to Croatia one year. Like we went on a cruise through Europe, which was like really fun. And then we did this thing called canyoning, which was wild. Like if you look it up, it's crazy. So we had like these wetsuits on, a helmet, and you just like go down these like caves.
Is it like
that.
the caving stuff I see on TikTok?
Yes. It's crazy.
I'm scared of
and
that
then like
stuff.
these waterfalls and stuff. It was actually so wild, but I would recommend it. But we were doing that for like 4 hours. We were just going down.
See, I'm
these-
scared of that.
Like the
These rocks
caving
and
stuff. Whenever I see like a caving TikTok, I have to watch it.
It's so
But
interesting, right?
I'm so uncomfortable watching it because like just thinking about like not being able to move or like I have to exhale now so I can move a little bit, and then like that
we
freaks
didn't do
me
it
out.
that extreme, but that's crazy.
I get claustrophobia. I feel like
For sure.
Yeah.
Ours was a heights thing for me because we were like literally going down this like I don't even know how to explain it other than like a waterfall for hours.
That is sick.
But it was
Scary.
cool. But very adventurous, guys. We all seem very adventurous. But Trevor, can you tell us a little bit more about your story? I know you kind of touched on a few things at the beginning, but kind of where track began for you and why you decided to run.
Yeah, so track for me started in middle school. I didn't do any sports until 7th grade, and I did basketball and track. I did basketball because I love basketball.
Mm-hmm.
Favorite sport by far when I was playing it. I did track and field because all my older siblings did track, so I was like, all right, like I guess I'll do track. And I didn't know what I wanted to run, so I was like, oh, like 400, 800, whatever. And then that changed when our middle school track coach was like, hey, nobody signed up for the hurdles. Your older sister's hurdle, so I think you could do this without getting hurt.
Mm-hmm.
So you're gonna hurdle. And I was awful. I was dead last every single race, not even close, until probably end of my freshman year of high school. And like to the point where I was so bad, I was gonna quit after 8th grade. I was like, no, like I'm not doing track, I just wanna focus on basketball. And then my parents were like, hey, like maybe high school track would be different, just do like 1 year high school track. And for the most part, high school track wasn't different. I was still really bad. But something, I don't know when it clicked, but something clicked in my head where I was like, I actually really like this process of like training and seeing my times go down. Even though I'm getting 7th, 8th, big day, got 6th, but like seeing my times go down, I was like, oh, like I actually kind of like this. And I started getting to a little more. Sophomore year, I ended up making it to state in the 110 hurdles and high jump. I ran a terrible hurdle race. The Ohio State track meets at Jesse Owens Stadium. It's Ohio State's track. And it's always like really big deal. Division 3, which is the smallest division, which is what I was in, we go at 9 a.m. First race goes at 9 a.m. And everyone's always like, don't look in the stands, don't look in the stands. I'm standing in the blocks, and what do? I look right in the stands. and just everything was done. Ran one of my slowest races of the year, really bummed out. Came back with a PB in high jump though, got like 12. But then still did basketball and track. Junior year, ended up winning state in the high hurdles. I could have won in the 300 hurdles, but I face planted so bad at the regional prelims. Like it's comical.
Oh,
Like my spike caught the track, so I didn't even get to go over the hurdle.
Oh,
And I just face planted into it.
Were you good after that? Like,
I mean, I was upset. Yeah, like
Yeah,
I was
but
so healthy. I was
okay.
bleeding, but I still had to go run the 200.
oh my god.
So like one of the trainers was like trying to take me up. I was like, no, I gotta do the 200. Like tears rolling down my face.
Wow.
But
Baby Trevor.
it's a hilarious video. Like my dad yells "get up" before I even hit the ground. Like I hit the hurdle, like my face about to use your "get up," smack the ground. Then
That's so funny.
senior year, got second in the 110s, so I didn't defend my title, but I ran 0.3 of a second faster. But someone beat me by 0.04 of a second. Came back and won the 300 hurdles. Ended up going to Ashland. Did not want to do the 400 hurdles at all. Hated it. But my coach was like, no, like we're gonna make you do it. Like you're not gonna come to this school and just do like 1 or 2 events. Like you're gonna help us in a lot of different areas. And then ended up being pretty good at it, as life turned out. But yeah, Ashland, ran pretty much every race there. I ran the 60 hurdles, 100, 200, 4x1, 4x4, DMR. I ran an 800 at one point as like a post-winter break race, and it was awful. I ran a 500, my first college meet, ran a 500, and I asked our assistant coach, I said, how do you run a 500? He says, run it like a 400, but hang on. Worst advice I'd ever gotten. Like it was so, to this, I haven't ran a 500 at a meet since because it was just so awful.
Oh, I feel like that is just such an awkward distance.
I got asked to run the 500 after winter break, and I said I'll do an 800 instead.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
Because the 800, I feel like you can at least like pace yourself a little bit,
Yeah.
whereas the 500, you're still rolling.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
Wow.
I like how honest you were at the beginning of your story too, because I feel like with a lot of people, they're like, oh yeah, like it just clicked for me, you know, things
Yeah.
went well. But I like how honest you were, and you were like, yeah, it was just not good.
That was
Like,
just so
I just adapted to it, and it sounds like you just fell in love with the process.
Yeah, my high school athletic director, who I'm very close with, he actually ended up flying out to Paris to watch me compete at the Olympics. We were at my high school graduation party. We had like pictures hanging up, and one of the pictures was from when I was in middle school. And you can see like I'm in the picture, but on the edge, you can see where everyone else was in front of me. He's like, can I take this picture? And I was like, yeah, why? He's like, just to show kids that like you can be really bad and end up being good. So he took the picture. I'm like, yeah, go ahead. Like,
I'm
whatever.
sure he still shows down. He's like, that man is an Olympian.
It's so funny, but yeah, it's something like I've never shied away from because it's just how it was.
Yeah. Was there a moment when you were like at Ashland University, like when you were like, oh, I do want to take this seriously. I do want to, you know, run post collegiately, or, you know, even just like try to, you know, make my mark where I'm at.
Yeah, so it's interesting. I kind of got into the post collegiate idea later, which I'll get to, but I still remember like freshman year. I mean, you guys know how freshman year is. Like, you're trying to figure things out. Like, how do you want to go about it? And it was our first week of practices. And it's like the fall conditioning. We're just doing stuff that's really hard and it sucks. And we had this hill circuit. So we had this hill, 3 to 4 different rounds. You're doing like bunny hops, lunges, backwards bear crawl. And I had told myself before, I'm like, I'm just gonna stay with the pack. I'm not gonna do anything too crazy, try to hold our own. And our coach said, ready, set, go. And one of the other freshmen, his name's Garrick Manning. I laugh because you know Garrick, especially he's just this long-haired, goofy dude, goofy country kid, and he takes off. And for whatever reason, a flip switch in my head, and I was like, I'm not letting Garrick beat me. And I just went after it, and ended up being like the first person done, and then ended up just becoming a thing. Every year we did the hill circuit, like, who's gonna beat Trevor? Who's gonna beat Trevor? Which got really annoying, because there were days where I'm like, oh, I don't really want to do this. I don't want to go all out. But it's like, who's gonna beat Trevor today? So I'm like, all right. And so that was when like a switch flipped for me of like, I really want to like give all I have to the program, like make a name for myself. But even then, that was just like a Division II thing for me. And in terms of the post-collegiate, we were at my freshman year outdoor national championships in Charlotte, North Carolina. And we were taking the van back from like dinner, or we got ice cream or something. It was just me, my sprints coach, Coach Clark, Paul Murray, and maybe another person. And I'm sitting in the back, and Paul's just asking Coach Clark questions about life, questions about coaching. I'm like half listening. I'm on my phone, whatever. And I hear him say, he's like, one of my favorite things about coaching is I want to help people realize how great they can be and realize that some of you guys can actually be professional athletes like Trevor can be. And I kind of perked up my seat and I was like, keep in mind, freshman year of college, my PBs, I was a 14.0 high hurdler. I had gone 52.9 in the 400 hurdles, ran 21.7 indoors in the 200, and my fastest 4x4 split was like, at the time, I think like 47.5. So nothing, like, not bad, but especially in terms of like the big picture, like Florida track and field, I'm not even seeing the track. Like, very much not like, oh, this kid could be a professional athlete. So when he said that, I was like, oh, like that's kind of how he views me. And that kind of planted that seed a little bit for me. And then the first time I actually thought like, oh, I can do this professionally, do this like a career, was after my sophomore year. I had won the D2 championship in the 400 hurdles and got second in the highs. And we signed up for the US championships in 2019. And we weren't sure if I was gonna get in, so I didn't train. Took a full month off after the season and we got in. So it's like, oh, okay, let's try to get back into shape. And we did the best we could. Go to the US championships. I ended up making the semifinal in the 400 hurdles, missed the semifinal in the highs. It was a weird race. We got called back like 7 times. It was like me, Devin Allen, Jared Eaton, and someone kept setting off the blocks. So we got called back into the blocks 7 or 8 times. And after that meet, I was like, I took a month off and I just got 13th in the United States in the 400 hurdles in a world championship year.
Yeah.
Because back before COVID made everything pushed together, there were down years. Like you go to the US champs, you could maybe sneak into the final because not everyone's going to run it. But I'm like, no, this is a world championship year. Everybody was here. So like maybe we can like really make this happen. So then that kind of became something in the back of my head to work towards. Because obviously you have to take care of the business in front of you. But that was when that seed kind of planted in my head, like, okay, like if I keep doing this and I keep working, then maybe we can make this happen.
That's awesome. I love that. And kind of to backtrack just a little bit on your story, like what made you choose Ashland in the first place? Because did you have like other schools you were interested in, or were you like, I am going there?
I did not want to go to Ashland at all. My older sister Kendra went to Ashland for track. She was a 2-time All-American there in the multi. So I was like, I don't want to go to Ashland. I want to do my own thing. Didn't have a ton of interest out of college, especially from like Division I schools. I had Miami of Ohio. And they were the one that was like interested beyond just like sending the generic letter in the mail. So my final 2 schools ended up being Ashland and Grand Valley State, which ironically enough, they were in the same conference, very big rivals. And I was like, I don't want to go to Ashland. And even though I had worked with Coach Clark at like the summer camps, so I had a connection there. And I was like, you know what, let me just do an overnight visit, see what's going on. And I go, and they had like a weight room testing day. They were maxing out in the weight room. And then I go and just seeing like the environment they had in the weight room. Everyone's screaming, yelling for each other, the support, and then having the time to talk to Judd Logan, the head coach, who I've talked a lot about, who passed away in January of 22. He was a 4-time Olympian in the hammer throw, broke the American record 13 times.
Wow.
Like he was very big presence in the university, the culture, the atmosphere he built. And I just felt it the second I walked in. And Ashland had like nothing to offer. I didn't get a great scholarship from there out of high school. Their indoor facility was a 147-meter bank track that was built in the 60s with a couple sections that were wooden that they could like remove if you wanted to. And the weather wasn't great. Their outdoor track was built in like 2012. There's no team gear. You got 1 free item from Under Armour a year. So I think I got a t-shirt, a long sleeve shirt. We got a short sleeve hoodie. That was a big year. got a short sleeve hoodie, which I still wear, like it was super nice. And we got another t-shirt that I still have today. But so like I chose Ashland because of that culture and the atmosphere, and just seeing how they didn't care that we didn't get gear. They didn't care that we had a terrible indoor facility. It was like, no, we have these things. We produce some of the best athletes, like Katie Moon, the pole vaulter's from Ashland. Kidway Johnson, Olympic hammer thrower, came from Ashland. Like, we have this terrible indoor facility, but everyone leaned into it and embraced it because we're like, we don't need the fancy things. Like, we can show up on meet day with all this, and we're gonna beat you anyway. And it's just something we all embraced and leaned in, and I loved every second of it.
Wow, that's amazing. I love that you said that. That's so good, and I feel like a lot of our listeners need to hear that as well, because there are people out there who are like, how do I get into the best D1 school? What are the things I can do in high school to get in? It's like, not everyone thrives in that atmosphere, and look at where
I wouldn't have. I think for me, I needed more time to develop. There would have been a lot of distractions, and so Ashland recently renovated that indoor track because they got a new one, 300-meter track. It's beautiful. So the old one, they like tore it up, and I texted one of my friends. I heard about it. I said, hey, rip off a piece of the track for me. So in my track bag, I have like a piece of that old indoor track, which is funny because like we all hated it. We complained about it. We had so many injuries because of it. But one of my bigger regrets is we never got a video of a Monday practice. So a Monday practice at Ashland, that facility, and I just need you to try to picture it. It's this tiny indoor track. We would have just had a team meeting. You have the 147-meter bank track. You have throwers going here, hammer weight throw into the net, shot putters throwing here, pole vault here, high jump here, long jumpers using this runway, distance runners in lanes 1 and 2 around, sprints in lanes 3 and 4 going around. And you had to be careful running on this turn because they're throwing hammer and weight. If you get too close, the weight gets hit in the net and it could come down and like clip you on the shoulder. And then the bathrooms were over here, and there were literal holes in the wall from when like a hammer slipped and like went through the wall.
Did anyone ever get hurt?
No.
Praise God.
But it was just this. Judd always called himself the head of the 3-ring circus, and it's so true because you had a team of 100+ people in this tiny facility all going at once. Music's blaring, people are screaming, spitting, cussing, just embracing it. But we were such a close team because we all experienced all of that together at the same time, and it just always went off without a hitch. We'd complain about it always.
Yeah.
But looking back on it, like, the fact we don't have the video upsets me because it's so hard for people to truly understand like what that was like. But anybody you talk to that went to Ashland knows exactly what I'm talking about.
That's so cool though.
I've never heard anything like that, but
that's I miss it. Yeah. Wow. I really do. It was crazy and I hated it in the moment, but it was something else.
I feel like there's so many different moments like that too, where you're in it and you're like, wow, this is just a hot mess. This is crazy. I don't even want to do this anymore. And then when you're removed from it, that's when you really miss it, and when you really look back and you're like, okay, but it really wasn't all that bad.
Yeah.
You just realize how special it really was. Like when they announced that they were like going through with like the plans to renovate the old field house, my phone was getting blown up from people like, they can't do this.
Yeah.
Even though it wasn't being used, like it wasn't being used for anything, but it's like, no, like that's such a special part.
Yeah. Oh man, I hope some of your Ashland teammates listen to this and then go through the memory lane. That'd be so cool. Yeah, we had a track like that in high school, our indoor track. We raced out a lot called Boo Williams. Grant can tell you about it because Grant has like all the records there. But Boo Williams, that's all I gotta say. Anyways, okay, so it sounds like you had such an awesome college experience. So I'm a little hesitant to move on to like this question, but I'm very excited about this question. So how has being a pro athlete then changed your way of thinking and viewing the sport in comparison to college?
It's interesting because part of the reason I chose to come down here with Coach Holloway and Florida and the pro group is because I wanted to keep as much of that team atmosphere as I could, because I realized how much having training partners, having that team experience benefits you. I didn't want to go to a place where I was going to be the only person. I didn't want to have to worry about anything like that. Like I like keeping the team atmosphere because we can lean on each other, we can push each other. And it's interesting because going to Division 2, I had all these ideas about like Division 1, this and that, and like training here at Florida, having access to some of the things Florida has, it honestly only confirmed it. Like, because one of the questions I get asked all the time was like, why didn't you transfer? Like, why, once you ran certain times, like after my junior year, I probably could have gone to just about any of the Division 1 schools in the country. Like, why didn't you? And at the time, like, I don't think they had anything really to offer me outside of getting gear and maybe going to better meets. But even then, like, I've never been a gear person. Like as nice as it is, if you came up to me like, Trevor, we can give you $300 worth of gear, or we can put that money towards like going to like a really nice track meet. I'd be like, oh, let's go to a really nice track meet. And that's not how everyone is, but that's just how I was. And Judd always made sure once I got to a level where like the normal meets we were going to weren't enough, he always made sure he's like, I'll be able to get you to one indoor meet and one outdoor meet where you'll compete with like the best in the world. And so like I'd sit down with him and Coach Clark, and we would find what indoor meet do you want to go to, what outdoor meet do you want to go to. And so like I got sent to the American Track League meets in Arkansas where I raced Omar McLeod and I raced some of these pro people. And I got sent out to Mount Sac where I raced some pro 400 hurdlers. And that was all I got in terms of that, but it was enough. Or we as a team got to take a team trip to race at Penn State. Or one year I got to race at Kentucky, I got to race Daniel Roberts. And it's just something that they always made sure that we would get enough. Like they weren't going to be able to provide like, hey, we can fly you to every single major track meet, because they can't. But we'll be able to get you to 1 or 2 a year. And then I believe the grass isn't always greener. Coach Clark's phenomenal. Never crossed my mind to leave Ashland while he was there. And I always say like, these D1 schools didn't have anything to offer me because I didn't really care about gear and the culture that Judd had created, and then the culture that Coach Clark then extended to the sprints crew as a whole. There wasn't anywhere in the country that I believe would have matched it for me.
Wow. It really is the people who makes the place too. And I like how you had like a collaborative effort with them too. Like they let you in and they said, hey, like, what do you want to do? It's less, one size fits all, mentality. It's more like, what do you want to do? What's best for you? And it sounds like they really like helped you in that way. So I really love that.
The only time it wasn't about what I wanted to do was when we got to the national championships, and it was like, hey, like we helped you all these things, like we need you for 5 or 6 races. Like I still remember the 2021 indoor championships, and this is I have countless Judd stories, but this is probably my favorite one. So 2021 indoor nationals, right after COVID. I don't know if they did for D1, but our schedule was so pushed together. The start of the track meet and the end was all within an hour and a half.
Okay, that's not how it is for D1 though.
Not anymore, but I mean right after COVID.
Oh, I got you, okay.
Right after COVID, they split us up into men's and women's sections, and the men's section from the 60 dash start to the 4x4 start was 90 minutes, the entire track meet.
Wow.
That's insane.
So we had originally agreed I wasn't gonna run the DMR. We get to the night before the meet, Judd goes, you're running the DMR. So
Oh my God.
all right, so I run the DMR. The next day I had to run the 60 hurdles, 200 4x4. And so I run the 60, I got third, and it got to the point where like I didn't leave the track. This was in Birmingham. The official's like, hey, you need to leave. And I'm like, no. Like I know how close this schedule is. I'm not gonna walk all up and down, so I'm just gonna do this. So run the 60, get third, run the 60 hurdles, win, run the 200, win national record.
Wow.
And we're getting ready for the 4, but after the 200, I get, right before I'm about to go on the podium, I throw up everywhere.
Oh no.
Like, there were some coaches around and they were like laughing at first, and I like kept throwing up.
Oh my God.
And Coach Carr still tells like, you can see like the smile like slowly fade from their face when they got worried.
Oh my God.
So then I'm sitting down, I'm like, hey, Coach Clark, go get Judd. Like, I need a Judd speech, because he was really good at speeches and like really firing you up. So I'm like, hey, like I need a Judd speech for the 4x4. Even though at that point we had locked up the national championship. I'm like, I need a speech to get through this 4x4. So I'm sitting here like this, and I can feel Judd like walking out because he just had that presence. And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna get a really good speech. Like, it's gonna be great. He puts his hand on my shoulder and he goes, everyone's got enough for one more rep, and walked away. And I was like,
That's like the speech.
I sat up, I was like, what?
Yeah.
But it's funny because looking back, that he knew I didn't need a big speech. We'd already won the championship, and he knew that I did have enough to get us through the 4x4 and still win the 4x4.
Mm-hmm.
So looking back, it was the perfect speech, but in the moment, I was like so excited, and I was just...
Like, you let me down,
Yeah.
Coach. What the heck?
But he actually knew exactly what I needed in the moment. He's like, I don't need to give him this big speech. He'll be ready for it.
Yeah. Okay, wait, and I'm trying to do the math in my head. So you said you're 21-time NCAA All-American.
Yes.
So how do you... So you must have been doing a lot of events.
A lot of
and
events, a
getting
lot of
All-American
years.
A
Yeah.
lot of years. Okay, I don't even know how to
So
do
I
that.
ended up doing 5 because I got the COVID year.
Okay,
And I was in a weird middle ground after my senior year because I got 8th at the Olympic trials.
okay.
So I wasn't in a position to turn pro, and then with NIL coming out, it kind of gave me a little more incentive to come back.
Gotcha.
So
Okay, got you. Wow, 21 time. Okay.
That's so impressive.
Yeah, that's so impressive.
Well, transitioning a little bit, can you tell us a little bit about your faith and how you stay grounded during trials or whenever people are preying on your downfall or kind of counting you out in a way?
yeah, so faith journey's been interesting. I didn't grow up in like a super religious household. It's just not something like my family really did. I always believed in God, but it wasn't anything where like I really sought it out until I got to college. So my college teammates got me into FCA. I started going to a church near the campus, and then like things really blossomed. I was baptized in 2019, and things really took off from there. And then in terms of like leaning on my faith during like hard times, this last season was really hard on me. I had hurt my hamstring in March, right the week of Florida relays. I was able to bounce back from it pretty quick, but my hamstring never really healed. So I was like 85-90%. I had the fastest season opener of my life in the 400 hurdles. Awesome, everything's going great. And then the next two, I get slower the next race. And then at Prefontaine Classic, a month before the Olympic trials, around the slowest race in my professional career, I was in a terrible place, so bad mentally, to the point where I was just asking God, like, is this what you want me to do still? Because like, we obviously don't know God's plans. Like maybe his plan wasn't for me to make this Olympic team. Maybe it wasn't for me to do this. Maybe it was just to get me this far, and now this is when I transition to something else. And I just kept praying about it, stuck with it, trusted Coach Holloway, trusted myself, and just kept like pushing through. And things just slowly started to click, slowly started to get better. And I still remember, I deal with competition anxiety pretty bad, like on most meet days, especially if I'm running my main event. I really struggle to eat. It's something I really have to push through, really have to force myself to do. And I still remember before the Olympic trials, like on the warm-up track in between like sprint reps, I'm just like, God, I need you to get me through one more race. That's it. I'm like, this is the trials final. Just get me through this race. Like, if nothing else, get me through this race. And after that, whatever happens, happens. And I always say the same prayer for the most part before every race, and it's, help me run the race to the best of my ability. Help me run this race in a way that glorifies and honors you, regardless of the result. Because I'm going to go out and give everything I have. I'm going to execute the race plan as well as I can. And if I run fast, awesome, glory to God. If I run slow, glory to God, that was your plan. Like, that's fine. And that helps me with the anxiety, knowing that whether I run fast or run slow, God's going to love me all the same. And also helps me knowing that, like, if I give everything that I have and do my best to execute this race plan and it doesn't happen, it's okay. It's just not meant to be that day. Like, there's other factors at play, and maybe that's not what God wants for me today. And it's a lot easier saying that in hindsight. Like, obviously after that race in Eugene, when I ran the slowest race in my career, it was really hard to recognize that in the moment. Even when I'm telling myself this and my wife's helping me talk through it, it's still really hard. You don't really want to accept it in the moment because it's such a big part of our lives. But it's something that I really take pride in and really just try to instill into others, that God has a plan for you. If the plan's not to run fast today, you're not going to run fast that day. I could do everything right, and if I don't run fast,
Yeah.
It's just how it is. That's all there is to it.
Wow. Yeah, you don't even know how much I needed to hear that today. Like, oh my gosh. I can't wait for our listeners to hear that too. Wow.
And I like how you said no matter what happens, God is going to love me the same. And I think that's so easy to lose sight of that. And whenever you're in the middle of something, especially in a sport like this, where you really have oftentimes one opportunity, like you have that one race to quote unquote prove yourself or to get that goal that you've been chasing after, and you don't get it. It's so easy to just be down on yourself and bummed out and just to like hyperfixate on all the little things that you did wrong. But in the grand scheme of things, everything does happen in accordance to God's plan, and you're gonna have races that don't go super well, but then you'll also have performances that do go well. And I just think it's so important to cling on to truth, which is no matter what, like God still loves us.
Yeah.
I think I've grown a lot in that area the last couple years, especially since turning pro, because you learn a lot about yourself when things aren't going well. And when I was at the Olympic Games, I didn't run a good prelim, had to run the repechage round. That went really well. And then the semifinal, I ran a good time out of lane 2, but I was on the bubble. And I was the first heat, I was on the bubble. And I still remember going to like the little like couch area where they have the cameras and everything. And I just got on my knees and I prayed to God, and I didn't pray to make the final. I just said, God, thank you for this opportunity. If your will is for me to make this final, let it be done. I'll be thankful. If it's not to make the final, awesome. If that's what you want and you want me to learn from this moment, let your will be done. I'm just thankful that you brought me to this place. And I think that's something that if that would have happened to me 2 years ago, or maybe even a year ago, would have absolutely devastated me, and I would have been out of commission mentally for probably weeks. Like when I didn't make the Olympic team in 21, I was out of commission for about 2 weeks. Like I wasn't talking to anybody, I wasn't leaving the house, I was just sitting in my room in Ashland. Just to this day, I still haven't watched that race from the 21 Olympic trials. But yeah, so I think that was just a big step for me. It's just kind of understanding all that and being able in that moment to having the self-awareness of God put me on the Olympic team. He gave me this opportunity to semifinal. I gave everything I had. If he wants me to make the final, awesome. If not, that's great too. We'll just learn from it and use it.
Yeah, your faith is so inspiring, and it's so inspiring that you gave that full surrender to God. And it's kind of scary to pray those prayers sometimes, be like, if it is your will, like, let it be done. Like, oftentimes I'm praying, like, God, please, like, allow this to happen. But I also have found myself, like, praying, like, if this is not for me, like, just, take it away. And that's scary. It's scary that you prayed, like, if it is your will for me to make the final, but it's okay if not. Like, sometimes I get hesitant about praying that, but your faith is so inspiring, and I just want to affirm you in that. Like, we can all see it from the outside, and it's just been really cool, like, seeing from afar.
Yeah.
And it takes a lot of courage to pray that too, and the fact that you can confidently say, yeah, me 2 years ago wouldn't have been able to do that, or me 2 years ago was not that calm and collected.
Yeah.
It just shows the growth that you've not only had on the track, but also in your faith journey as well, which translates, and they both just like coincide. But can you tell us a little bit about how it's been being unsponsored and going to the Olympics and that journey?
Yeah, it's definitely unique. I just have a great team around me, from the coach here at Florida with Coach Holloway, Coach Welty, and everybody. And obviously, like, the people who take care of my body, Carlos, Doc West, Ryan, and just getting support from my wife, knowing that, like, she's all in on this dream as much as I am. Like, she, at any point, she really could be like, Trevor, I want you to do something else. Like, we need more stability in terms of this or that. And I'd be like, okay, like, if that's what the family needs, what we need. But she's always supported me, my family supported me. And when you have that support team around you, it just makes everything easier. Knowing that, like, when I have those bad races or I'm in a slump, knowing that my wife or my family's not like, hey, maybe it's time to hang up the spikes, like, maybe you should use your degree and get a job now. Like, no, they're all in on this as much as I am, as much as you can be from the outside. And then I got some support for the Olympic trials from Bandit. They did the unsponsored project. It's where I got the all black kit.
Yeah.
They threw some money my way to help deal with like expenses, and I was able to help them kind of grow their brand a bit. And it's something that I made sure to tell them, like, this is phenomenal work. You guys are truly, truly making people's dreams possible. The USA Track and Field Foundation also, they do their grants every year. And I've told them I wouldn't have been able to move to Florida to train with Coach Hollow if I didn't get the foundation grant. And year after year, they help me out and dozens of other athletes, and it's something they don't have to do. Like, the foundation's fully donated just by people that want to see track and field athletes succeed. And it's something that if that wasn't a part of it, I'd probably never make this Olympic team. I'm probably not in the sport 2 years after getting out of college. So it's hard because I feel like I constantly need to prove myself, which is something Coach Hollow has helped me with a lot, where Coach Hollow has pulled me to the side and been like, hey, you don't have to prove yourself. You've made every world championships team since you came out of college. You made the Olympic team. Like, you don't have to prove anything to anybody. Just run your race plan, go compete, trust God, and like see what happens. And that's another thing that's really hard in the moment. And it was something I really struggled with my first year professional, because I felt like every time I stepped on the track, I had to run something crazy to try to get a contract. And nobody can run well with that stress. And it's something that I really struggled with, and it's something I've gotten better with now year after year, where it's just kind of added a chip to my shoulder, whereas Division I colleges didn't want me. Now there's certain shoe companies that might not want me. It's like, okay, just, I like being the underdog. I like playing that role. It's something I've thrived in forever, so it's not anything different to me. But yeah, it's just unique, and I think I like to use it as a way to kind of inspire other people that it's okay to take the road less traveled. I think that sums up like a good bit of my track and field career.
I like that. I was about to ask you, literally like nailed it on the head. I was about to be like, so would you say you feel like an underdog in that sense? Like, when you went to the Olympics, like, most of the people there have a sponsor, their shoe sponsors following them there. Like, how does that make you feel? Or what you were kind of saying, like, you kind of like that, you kind of, you know, like having the chip on your shoulder.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, I would love to have a shoe contract by all means.
Yeah.
I would love to have a shoe contract, but I've always been able to kind of take things like that and kind of like do a spin zone in my head and kind of use it to help fuel me, because I feel like I've been doubted most of my career, and even after getting a world medal and making an Olympic team, I still feel the same way. So up until I think I get the respect that I feel like I've earned, I'm just always going to carry those chips on my shoulder. Even once I get to that point where I feel like I'm getting the respect I deserve, I'm still always going to have the chips on my shoulder.
Yeah, and I think whatever shoe company decides to work with you and wants to work with you, they are so lucky because, like you were saying in the beginning of your story, it's not all about the gear. It's not all about the, like, you don't care about the fancy stuff. You're not going to be like, send me 400 pairs of shoes. Like, I don't care about that. Like, and so I think that shoe brand, whatever company decides to work with you, like, that they're so lucky to have you as an athlete. So that's just awesome. We'll keep this like so low, but do you have any that you're interested in right now, just in the back of your mind, or no? Okay, that's okay.
The right one will come.
Open.
Absolutely.
Yeah, the right one will come.
Yeah, and I just kind of going off what Carol was saying, like I think it's so noble, because I think being in a sport like this, it's so easy to get caught up in all the things, like all the gear, the shoes, which is, you know, understandable in a way, but I think it's so cool how throughout your whole story, like back at Ashland, now, how you're all about the culture, you're all about how can I get better, what can I do to you know, run this extra mile, like you don't cut things short, like you do the work, and that's awesome.
And it's something, I've always been like a culture person. It's something that I try to bring, like when I join the group, I try to like help the group as much as I can, try to be a good teammate, be a good leader as much as I can, and try to help out. If that's the case and they feel like I have been, awesome. If not, that means I need to do a better job. It's not something I necessarily go around asking, but I try to be coachable, I try to be a positive presence on the group, and try to, I mean, rising tide lifts all boats, and I want to be a part of that. And that's another part of the reason why I came here, because I know the culture Coach Holloway and everyone's established here.
Yeah, that's so cool, because we can see that, like, as Gator athletes getting to see you all in the weight room and stuff like that, like, we love the culture of the pro group, and we were even talking about, like, we need a distance pro group here in Gainesville. Like, it's just the culture that that UF brings. Like, that's why I came to UF, because I wanted to, you know, help contribute to like all the great things that are going on in the group, and it's also so cool to see that in the pro group as well. So something special is going on here, and it's just so amazing to be a part of. And it's selfless because like you're part of a team, which I love. Okay, so what are some different challenges that being a pro athlete has brought that you didn't experience as a college athlete?
I think it's always different whenever you leave that college system, because like at Ashland, everything I did was very much team oriented, whereas at the pro level, you get to be a little more selfish in terms of like, no, I don't want to race at this meet, or I don't want to do this or that.
Yeah.
So you get to be a lot more self-centered in a positive way, and then you don't race as often, which I expected, but I didn't. It's something I had to get used to. I ran 40 plus races every year of my college career, versus now I don't think I've ran 40 races as a pro. Yeah, I probably have. I'd have written down something, but
yeah,
it's just very different going from like your coach is telling you what to do, team centric, to your coach always still tells me what to do, but there's a bit more collaboration involved at times, and it's very much focused on me and what's best for me.
Yeah.
And speaking to that, after I ran that terrible race and ran the slowest race of my career, I texted Coach Holloway, was not in a good spot mentally, and somehow we ended up on the same flight home. I don't know where you guys were, what happened, but I ended up on the same flight as him, and he saw me walk onto the plane, and he goes, you need to write 2 weeks of your own training and send it to me by tomorrow morning, or you're getting fined.
Whoa.
I had 2 weeks of training written before I'd even gotten off the plane.
Wow.
And I sent it to him, and for that next week, everything I had typed was the exact training I had, which I think is a big testament to Coach Holloway, because I don't think there's too many coaches out there a month out from the Olympic trials that when an athlete's struggling mentally would let their athlete write their own training and actually stick to it. And that helped me so much, because it showed how much he believed in me and how much he trusted me. And he didn't have to do that. I mean, his accolades, his resume speaks for himself, but that was a moment where we collaborated. He had full faith in me because I had full faith in him, and it ended up working out.
Wow.
And that kind of helped start to snap me out of that slump.
I love that. Shout out Coach Holloway.
Yeah.
Shout out, Coach.
So in times when you do struggle mentally or like with your faith, how have you overcome that? Or is there something that's really worked for you in moments like that?
Just being persistent. It can be really hard, especially with how much we have to travel, and like for example, I struggled a bit after the Olympics because I stayed in Europe for like another month. I had never been away from home for that long, and I didn't go to any European church services, so I try to catch up on live streams from the church I go to here in Gainesville, but it's not the same. And it's just finding ways to be persistent, finding like a plan on the Bible app, kind of trying to stick to that, and just knowing that like these things happen. Like you're gonna have slumps. It's okay if you don't feel as close to God as you normally do from time to time, because we're human beings. That happens. We're gonna stray away, but it's understanding that you strayed away and trying to fix it and get back to it.
And giving yourself grace too. Yeah.
Exactly.
That's good.
That's so good. Something that someone told me that I thought was so good was whenever you feel far from God, or like in moments when you're struggling in that way, like God's not the one who ran away, like you're the one who got away. And so God's always with us. He's like waiting for us. And so there are moments, like we're humans, things happen, we get in a slump, like life gets a little bit crazy and you don't have, the optimal time, like you're not here on a Sunday to go to church because you're traveling. So it's just so important to find like those little windows of opportunities too. So I like how you touched on that. If you could give a piece of advice for your younger self, what would you say?
Piece of advice for my younger self. In terms of what, or just general advice?
Just general, like if you could give
Life advice.
Life
About
advice.
Life.
or like what would you want to tell your younger self right now, or something that you wish you would have known? when you were younger?
Honestly, I just say just keep going.
Yeah.
Like, there's gonna be times when you want to quit, whether it's basketball, track and field, or you're just annoyed with like whatever's going on in life. Just keep going.
Yeah.
You'll end up getting out of it. And I know it's probably terrible advice, but
No,
if you
that's
just keep going, just keep moving forward. The steps don't have to be big. Just keep moving forward. That's all you gotta do.
That's
like
so good.
emo.
I did.
Swimming.
Exactly.
I did need to hear that. This is so
Yes.
great. This is speaking to me. Okay, so we're gonna ask about your lovely supportive wife, Harley. We're gonna shout her out.
Yeah, shout
Yeah.
out Harley.
Shout out Harley. Okay, so I know you're obviously saying like she has been the biggest supporter like throughout this whole thing. Just tell us a little bit about how you met, and then also like how she supported you through the Olympics and everything.
Yeah, so we met at school at Ashland. We ended up meeting at FCA.
Okay.
So that was a good connection there. She was into me first.
Okay.
Ooh.
She was into me first. So we started dating in January of 2018. And funny how life works. I got to college, I'm not getting a girlfriend. Like, I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
And literally, start of second semester freshman year, I started dating her, and then the rest is history. We ended up, I proposed to her in Nashville, Tennessee. I don't remember the date anymore, so that might be a little rough. But I believe it was in October. I think it was in October.
Okay.
Yeah, we ended up getting engaged then, got married, and married life's been great. She's been super supportive. She runs marathons, which is insane to me. We got to run together during this last off season because Coach Holly gave me like 15-minute runs, 20-minute, 25, 30-minute runs. And the first 15-minute run we did, I was talking all sorts of trash. I was like, let's go. I might run 6:30 pace just because I feel like it. And she goes, no, you're not. I go, we'll see. We ran together. We went like 7:30 pace because I also didn't realize in my dumb brain that out of season Trevor is not the same shape as in season.
Yeah.
Because like in season 7:30 pace is like pretty comfortable, pretty easy for me. Out of season, we did the first mile, and I felt pretty good. We got to do the second mile. And she's like, she runs marathons, so like it's easy for her. So she's talking to me, and my response keeps getting shorter and shorter. My face is getting more red. She hears me like choking on spit a little bit. She goes, your face is a little red. I go, it's been red. But no, she's awesome, man. She's truly my rock, and I tell her, I don't think she believes me, that I'm like, I would not be where I'm at now if I didn't have you. And she's a trooper. She wakes up at like 4 or 5 in the morning every day to get her workouts in, to beat the Florida heat, and watching her achieve her goals in the marathon is so awesome. She's knocked out 3 of the Abbott World Majors so far.
Wow.
The goal is to get all 6, and seeing her run, I didn't get to go with her to Berlin for the Berlin Marathon because I went to the White House where the Olympians were recognized. And even then, like, that was something I wanted to go watch her run, but she was like, no, you need to go to the White House. Like, it's a one-time thing for you, you need to go.
Yeah.
So that's just a perfect example of like her supporting my dream, and I support hers. And just waking up, I don't remember, I think it was like 4 or something, to like check her results for her run in the marathon, and seeing her go sub 250 for the first time, freaked out in the hotel room, and I just love seeing her grow in terms of her marathon runner, her as a person. Seeing her also grow in her faith is super cool for me to see. And then like me also being like the track and field nerd I am a little bit, seeing her talk about like her workouts from now in comparison to a couple years ago, because I write down all my workouts, and just seeing her super into all that, I love every bit of it.
Wow. I love that we, as we're coming to an hour of yapping, which I didn't even realize has been like probably one of our longer podcasts, and some of the most entertaining. I think that's like gonna be like close to the end, but that is such a good way to end it, because like, wow, I don't even know what to say. Like, you guys, I look up to y'all so much in the way that you guys support each other, and I love it. And I love how you said, like, if she said, like, Trevor, like, we need some more financial, like, you were like, I would stop,
If that's what we need, it's what we need.
Yeah,
but she's all in on it.
She's all in, and I love that.
I love that.
So, Thank you so much for being on the podcast. We always end the episode with a question, and it is, where did you see God this week?
This week.
Yeah, this week.
It's Wednesday.
It's Wednesday. It could have been last week, though.
Or last week, yeah.
I think I'm gonna say last week, last Friday, because last Friday, January 3rd, was the 3-year anniversary of my head coach Judd Logan passing away, and thank you. Dealing with that, with the practice on Friday, was really hard, and just it felt different this year. I thought it was gonna be a lot harder, but I just found like a comfort in talking with some of my teammates about it. And I think a big part of that was God just kind of helping me grow through it and recognize that He just still lives on in all of us, and just kind of getting that comfort.
Yeah, I'm sorry about
I'm
that.
sorry about that.
Sorry.
But it's so important to have people in your corner and have people that like know what you're going through in that way, and like no one else knows exactly what you've gone through with that except God. And like I love that you consistently cling on to Him during those moments too.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, Trevor, thank you so much for
Thank
being
you
on
so
our
much.
podcast.
Thank you for having me. I know I can get a little long-winded.
No.
So
No, it was perfect. I
This
love
was so
episode.
perfect. I was saying, the reason why I was saying we didn't even know we were talking for an hour, I look and it's like an hour. I was so entertained. This is like the most entertaining podcast we've had. So I thank you so much, and I know the fans, this is what they've been asking for. This is what they've been waiting for. So I'm excited. And I know everyone else has been excited, and your story is truly inspiring. And yeah, just keep inspiring others, and just keep staying true to yourself. We really appreciate that about you.
thank you guys. Thanks for having me. I love
Absolutely.
doing podcasts and talking. So glad to.
Yeah, we'll have to do a little another one.
Yeah,
with you.
I'll be recurring.
We'll have to do a
guest.
part 2. We can have a recurring guest, and then you can bring Harley, and you can,
Yes.
That's you guys.
a
in the
relationship
interview.
panel.
Ooh.
Ooh.
Okay,
Okay.
guys, stay tuned for that.
So stay tuned. We will.